The sky was calm that night. Stars shone like tiny lamps over the silent world of Elyndra. For a long time, this planet had known peace. A bright and beautiful world filled with tall crystal cities and blue-leaf forests. The people of Elyndra were proud, graceful, and strong. Their queen, Liara, was known across galaxies for her wisdom and calm heart. But peace never lasts forever. The first sign of danger came as a whisper from the void. Strange signals, broken messages of warning. The Elyndrans did not believe them. They had strong shields, great armies, and magic that flowed through their veins. But far away, something was already moving through space. A dark fleet built of iron and hate was coming toward their world. On the day the sky broke, no one was ready. The clouds split open as fire rained down. Giant ships fell from orbit, burning trails through the air. The ground shook when the first bombs landed. Crystals shattered, towers collapsed, and screams filled the once silent streets. The Elyndrans tried to fight, but their enemies were strange, half machine, half shadow, speaking in metallic voices that no one understood. Queen Liara stood on the highest tower, watching her kingdom burn. She sent her warriors to protect the people, but every ship they launched was destroyed before it reached the sky. Her heart ached with helplessness, yet she refused to hide. She drew her twin blades, gifts of the ancients, and joined her soldiers on the battlefield. Among the flames, her silver armor glowed like moonlight. Her eyes were calm, even as the world fell apart around her. Every strike of her sword cut through the metal beasts, but there were too many. For every enemy she destroyed, 10 more took its place. In that chaos, something even worse appeared. A huge, dark figure stepping from the smoke, taller than any creature she had ever seen. Its armor was black and red, its voice deep and cold. "Your light ends here, Queen of Glass," it said. Liara fought bravely. Her blades clashed with the creature's weapon, sending sparks that lit the air. For a moment it seemed she might win. But then the monster moved faster than thought. 2 burning swords pierced her chest. She gasped, the pain flashing through her body like fire. The light faded from her eyes as the creature pushed her to the ground. The Elyndrans cried out when their queen fell. The invaders turned away, believing the world broken, the people leaderless. When the smoke cleared, only silence remained. The queen lay still, the 2 swords still inside her, glowing faintly like dying stars. Days turned into weeks. The once bright cities of Elyndra became ruins. Survivors hid among the rocks and broken walls, whispering prayers for help that never came. But help was on its way, from a place no one expected. Far across the galaxy, on a small blue planet called Earth, a transmission reached a deep space research ship. The signal was weak, old, and full of strange code. Most of the crew ignored it, thinking it was just noise. But one man listened again. His name was Eli Cross, a quiet technician with more courage than he realized. He cleaned the signal line by line until a voice came through, soft, broken, and desperate. "Help us. Our queen is dying." Eli sat frozen in his chair. The message repeated again and again, filled with static. He didn't know if it was real, but something in that voice pulled at him. It didn't sound human, but it sounded alive. It sounded afraid. He tried to show the message to his captain, but no one wanted to hear. Earth had its own problems. No one cared about a world that might not even exist. So one night Eli made a decision. He packed his things, took a small exploration shuttle, and set a course toward the signal. He had no plan. Only curiosity and something else. A feeling deep inside that this was the right thing to do. Weeks later, his shuttle broke through a silent field of floating debris. Broken ships, pieces of crystal towers, and dust surrounded him. Through the gray mist he saw the planet. Its surface glowed faintly blue, scarred by burns and craters. "Elyndra," he whispered, reading the last line of the signal. He landed near what looked like an old palace. The air shimmered with strange light. Everything was quiet, too quiet. He walked through empty halls filled with dust and echoes. Then, deep inside the ruined throne room, he saw her. A woman, no, something more than a woman, lay at the center of the room. Her hair was white as snow, her armor cracked and dim. 2 blades pierced her chest, their hilts still glowing softly. Eli took a slow step forward. "Oh God," he breathed. He could feel the energy in the air, like sadness turned into light. The woman was still breathing, very faintly. He didn't know who she was or what those swords were, but he knew one thing. She needed help, And even though every part of his mind screamed that he shouldn't touch them, his hands reached out anyway. Eli stood frozen beside the fallen queen. The two swords glowed faintly, one blue and one silver, their light flickering like candles in the wind. The air around them felt heavy, almost alive. Every breath he took seemed to echo inside his chest. He knelt beside her carefully. Her face was calm, almost peaceful, but her skin was cold like ice. The wounds around the swords looked strange, not bleeding, but pulsing softly with energy. Eli reached out, then stopped. "What am I doing?" he whispered to himself. "She's not even human." But as he looked closer, something in her expression made his heart twist. Even in pain, her face showed kindness, like someone who once smiled a lot, someone who had protected others. He saw no hatred there, only quiet suffering. Eli tried to use his scanner to check her condition. The screen filled with unreadable symbols, the device buzzing weakly before dying completely. Whatever she was, her body wasn't built like anything he knew. Then he noticed something else, faint whispers in the air. The swords were humming, singing in low voices that his mind could barely understand. He didn't know how, but he could feel what they were saying. "Do not touch. Only the worthy can free her." He swallowed hard. "Worthy, huh? Guess I'll find out." He placed one hand on the first sword. A shock of cold rushed up his arm. His heart began to race. Visions flashed through his mind. The queen fighting, falling, the moment the swords pierced her chest. He saw fire, loss, and her last thought before darkness. Save them. Eli's breath came fast. He felt tears sting his eyes, though he didn't know why. Then, without thinking further, he gripped the hilt tighter and pulled. The sword moved only a little, then stopped. The air screamed. A flash of light filled the room, throwing him back. His body hit the floor hard. When he looked again, the sword was still there, but its glow had changed. Softer now, like it was listening. He pushed himself up and took another deep breath. Okay. Round 2. He tried again, this time focusing not on the pain or the fear, but on the image that stayed in his mind. Her face, and that last whisper. Save them. Slowly, the blade began to slide free. As it came out, a wave of light spread across the floor like ripples in water. Eli fell to his knees, gasping. The sword dropped beside him, vanishing into tiny sparks that floated away. The queen's chest rose a little. Her breath returned, weak but there. Eli stared in disbelief. It worked. But there was still one more sword. This one glowed red, darker, stronger. Its energy felt alive and angry, like it didn't want to be touched. The hum grew louder as he moved closer, warning him away. He hesitated. "If I stop now, she dies," he whispered. "If I keep going, maybe I die." He reached for the sword anyway. The moment his fingers brushed it, a deep voice echoed inside his mind. "Human, you are not meant for this." Eli gritted his teeth. "Yeah, I've been told that before." He pulled. The sword fought back. His arms shook, pain spreading through his whole body like fire. His vision blurred. Still he held on. Memories that weren't his flooded into him. Entire lives, battles, losses, victories. He saw Elyndra before the war, full of light and laughter. He saw the queen smiling at her people, and then he saw the monster that killed her. He felt anger, not his own, but hers, mixed with sorrow so deep it made him tremble. With one last shout, he pulled the sword free. The world exploded in light. Every wall of the palace lit up with blue and silver fire. The air crackled with power. Eli was thrown backward again, landing hard against a pillar. His head spun. For a long moment, all he could hear was ringing. Then slowly, the light began to fade. He opened his eyes and saw her standing. The swords were gone. Her wounds had closed. Her hair floated gently as if the air itself moved around her. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, calm but powerful. She looked at Eli for a long moment, saying nothing. Eli tried to speak, but no words came out. The queen tilted her head slightly. "A human," she whispered. Her voice was soft, musical, and full of surprise. "You freed me." Eli gave a weak laugh. "Yeah, not sure how I did that." Her expression softened. She stepped closer, the air warming around her. "You have no magic, no power. Yet you faced death without fear," he shrugged. Didn't really think about it. For the first time in what felt like ages, she smiled. Small but real. "Then perhaps that is why the blades listen to you." Eli blinked, unsure what to say. Are you okay? She nodded slowly. I am alive. Because of you. Her gaze drifted toward the broken windows where the stars shone through. But my world is still dying. Eli looked around at the ruins. The sadness in her eyes told him everything. Even if she lived, her people might not. Then we'll find a way, he said. She turned back to him, her expression unreadable. You would help a queen not of your world. Eli met her gaze. Doesn't matter what world you're from. You needed help. For a long moment she was silent. Then she whispered, perhaps. Humans are not as weak as the legend said. Outside, the night wind carried a strange sound, distant, mechanical. The enemy was still out there, and they had just felt her return. The air in the ruined palace was still glowing faintly blue. Dust floated in the light, slowly settling after the storm of energy that Eli had unleashed. He stood quietly, still trying to understand what had just happened. The queen, Liara, looked stronger now. Her armor repaired itself piece by piece, shining again with silver light. The marks where the swords had pierced her heart were gone, leaving only a faint shimmer on her skin. Eli still couldn't believe it. Moments ago she was dying. Now she looked like someone born from stars. Liara took a deep breath and closed her eyes. For a few seconds the ground around her glowed. They still live, she whispered. Eli frowned. Who? My people, she said softly. Scattered, hiding in the shadows of the broken cities. I can feel them through the bond. They think I am dead. Eli looked toward the dark sky outside. If they think that, we should let them know you're alive. She nodded, but her eyes grew sad. I cannot reach them. The invaders built a barrier around this palace. My energy cannot pass through it. Then maybe I can help, Eli said. I might not have magic, but I've got a toolkit and some experience fixing broken systems. Liara looked at him curiously. You are brave. Or foolish. Maybe both, he said with a small grin. She gave a faint smile in return, but then her face darkened again. Those who came for us. They are not machines, not truly. They were once like us, guardians of the old worlds. But greed turned them hollow. They took the light from the stars and replaced it with metal. Eli listened carefully. So, they were your people once? She nodded. Long ago. They called themselves the Forgeborn. They believed emotion made us weak. They removed their hearts, replaced them with fire cores, and became something less than alive. It was their leader and the one who struck me down and who led the rebellion. Who was he? Eli asked quietly. Liara hesitated, her hands trembling slightly. His name was Kale. Eli tilted his head. He sounds familiar to you. He was more than familiar, she said in a voice barely above a whisper. He was my protector, and the one I loved. Eli felt a cold weight in his stomach. He's the one who… Yes, her voice cracked slightly. When I refused to join his cause, he turned his blades against me. He said I was too soft, that compassion had blinded me. Then he drove the swords into my heart. Eli didn't know what to say. For a long moment, silence filled the hall again. Then Liara spoke softly. The swords he used were not ordinary weapons. They were ancient relics, the blades of balance. One was forged from light, the other from shadow. Together they could kill even immortals. But they also had another purpose, they could restore balance to a dying world. Eli blinked. Wait, you mean by pulling them out, I didn't just save you? She nodded slowly. You awakened the heart of Elyndra. The planet's core feels my pulse again. That is why the air moves, why the light returned. Eli turned to the broken windows. The night outside looked brighter now. Faint lights shimmered across the distant ruins like stars returning to the ground. Liara's voice grew soft again. But the light will fade soon unless we find the core crystal. It lies beneath the city. Without it, the planet will die again, and so will I. Eli rubbed his neck. So we have to go underground into what's probably enemy territory? Yes, she said. The Forgeborn control the lower levels. That is where their machines feed on the heart of my world. Eli sighed. Of course they do. Liara smiled faintly again. You do not have to help me. You have already risked your life. He looked at her and shrugged. Guess I'm not the type to stop halfway. For the first time, her eyes softened with something like trust. Then we go together. As they stepped toward the broken doors, a strange noise echoed outside. Mechanical footsteps, heavy and sharp. The Queen stopped instantly. They have found us. Eli glanced at her. Can you fight? She drew in a deep breath. Blue light gathered around her hands. I was dead for a long time, human. I am ready to live again. The palace gates burst open with a crash. Several Forgeborn soldiers stormed in, their eyes glowing red through the smoke. They were tall, armored like walking statues, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. Eli ducked behind a fallen pillar as Liara raised her hand. A wave of blue light shot from her palm, striking one of the soldiers and shattering its armor. The others fired back, beams of fire cutting through stone and air. Stay behind me, she shouted. Eli grabbed a piece of metal debris and crawled for cover. He found one of their fallen weapons, a small cannon-like device. He pointed it awkwardly at the nearest enemy and pulled the trigger. The weapon kicked back hard, but the beam hit one, sending sparks flying. Nice shot, Liara called out. Thanks, he gasped. Total luck. The battle raged across the throne room. Light and fire clashed until only smoke remained. When the last Forgeborn fell, Liara lowered her hand, breathing heavily. Eli looked at her with awe. You're incredible. She gave a tired smile. So are you, human. Your courage reminds me of what we lost. Eli helped her steady herself. Then let's make sure you get it back. Liara turned her eyes toward the horizon, where faint red lights blinked in the distance, the core tunnels of Elyndra. That, she said quietly, is where the truth waits for us. And in that moment, Eli realized something. This was no longer just about saving her world. It was about something bigger, proving that one human's courage could stand against the fall of a whole civilization. The sky above Elyndra was dark and cracked, glowing faintly with red light. From a distance, the capital looked like a sleeping beast, broken towers, silent streets, and cold metal shapes waiting in the shadows. Eli followed Queen Liara through what had once been the palace gardens. The air was thick with dust and the smell of burnt stone. The wind carried distant echoes of machinery, deep and endless, like the planet itself was breathing in pain. Liara moved gracefully even in the ruins. Blue light shimmered around her, forming a faint shield. The core tunnels lie below the old sanctum, she said quietly. It was once a sacred place. Now it is a graveyard. Eli checked his wrist scanner, though most readings made no sense here. Your world's tech doesn't like mine, he muttered. Liara looked back with a faint smile. Perhaps your machines fear magic. He chuckled softly. Maybe. They stopped before a massive stone door carved with symbols that glowed faintly when Liara touched them. The ground shook as it opened slowly, revealing a dark tunnel beneath. Warm air rose from below, carrying a metallic scent. This is it, she said. The path to the heart of Elyndra. They descended together. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. The tunnel walls were lined with crystals that pulsed weakly, like dying stars. Eli could hear faint whispers again, the same ones he had heard when he pulled the swords from her chest. He tried to ignore them, but they grew louder as they walked. Do you hear that? He asked. Liara nodded. They are echoes of the past, the voices of those who died protecting this place. Their memories linger here. Eli swallowed. That's comforting and creepy at the same time. She smiled faintly. Courage often walks beside fear. After a long silence, Liara spoke again, her voice softer now. When you pulled the swords from me, did you feel anything? Eli hesitated. I saw things, battles, you fighting, and him, Kale, she whispered. Yeah, he said. I saw the moment he betrayed you. Liara looked down. I once believed there was good in him. I thought love could save him. But his heart turned to fire and his mind to darkness. Eli didn't know what to say, so he just walked beside her quietly. They reached a wide chamber deep beneath the surface. In the center, a huge glowing sphere floated above a pool of silver light, the core crystal. Its glow filled the room with a strange, soft warmth. Liara's eyes widened. It still lives. But the moment she stepped closer, the ground trembled. From the shadows around the chamber, dark shapes began to appear, metallic figures, their eyes red and sharp. The Forgeborn were guarding the crystal. Eli raised his weapon. Guess we found your heart, and the welcoming party. Liara's voice hardened. We must reach the crystal. Once I touch it, I can restore the planet's balance. The Forgeborn moved in, their bodies clicking and humming. Eli fired first, his blast striking one of them in the chest. It staggered but didn't fall. Liara raised her hands, sending a wave of blue energy through the chamber. Two of the creatures dissolved instantly into sparks, but more kept coming. The walls themselves seemed to come alive, forming mechanical limbs that struck at them. Too many, Eli shouted. Hold on, Liara called back. She pressed her palms to the ground. The air around her shimmered and light exploded outward. For a moment, everything stopped. The machines froze mid-motion, their red eyes flickering out. Eli blinked through the haze. You stopped them? She shook her head weakly. Not for long. The core reacts to life. It listens to me, but it listens to him too. Him? Eli asked, breathless. The answer came from the shadows. A tall figure stepped forward, his armor black and silver, his eyes glowing with fire. The sound of his footsteps echoed like thunder. Kyle, Liara whispered. The figure stopped before them, the red light behind him glowing brighter. You live, he said in a deep, cold voice. I thought the blades ended you. Eli aimed his weapon. You're the one who stabbed her? Kale didn't even look at him. His gaze stayed on Liara. You shouldn't have made him pull the blades, my queen. You've doomed us all. Liara's voice was steady, though her eyes showed pain. You call me queen, but you murdered your people. I freed them, Kale said calmly. We are no longer slaves to feeling. We are eternal. Eli stepped forward. You're not eternal. You're broken machines pretending to be gods. Kale finally looked at him. And you are the human who freed her. His tone dripped with disgust. You touched the sacred blades with mortal hands. Tell me, does your courage feel like victory or foolishness? Eli met his glowing eyes. Feels like doing the right thing. Kyle's laugh was low and cruel. Then let me show you what right and wrong truly mean. He raised his arm. Energy gathered around his gauntlet. The chamber shook as a beam of red fire shot toward them. Liara pulled Eli close and threw up a shield. The beam hit, exploding in light. When the dust cleared, both stood alive, but barely. The queen's energy flickered like a dying flame. Go, she gasped. Reach the core. I'm not leaving you. Eli shouted. Kale's voice echoed through the smoke. You cannot win, Liara. The core belongs to me now. Liara's eyes filled with light. Not while I breathe, she turned toward Eli. The core must feel a living heart, yours. Eli stared in shock. Me, but I'm human. That is why, she said softly. You are the balance. The swords chose you. Kale roared in fury, charging toward them. Eli's heart pounded as he looked at the glowing core. He didn't know what would happen if he touched it, but he knew he had no choice. He ran. The light grew brighter. The core began to pulse, alive and awake again. Kale's hand reached for him, and then the whole world turned white. The world was gone. No ground, no sky, only endless light. Eli floated in a warm glow that felt alive, like sunlight breathing around him. He could not tell if he was standing or drifting. His body felt weightless, his heartbeat loud in his ears. Where am I? He whispered. A voice answered. Not through sound, but through feeling. You are inside the heart of Elyndra. He turned and saw shapes forming in the light. Memories, faces, moments from the queen's life. He saw Liara as a child learning to use her power. He saw her people laughing, building shining cities. Then came the fire, the war, and Kale's betrayal. The images surrounded him like ghosts made of color. Eli touched one of them, and it melted into light that wrapped around his hand. The warmth sank into his skin. He gasped as visions rushed into his mind, the swords, the queen, the pain. Then the voice spoke again, softer now. You touched the blades of balance. You carry both their hearts within you. He frowned. I'm just human. I don't understand magic or any of this. That is why you were chosen, the voice said. You are not made of light or shadow. You are both. You feel fear, but you act anyway. You see pain, but you still help. That is balance, Eli's throat tightened. But what do I do now? The light shifted, forming a glowing path before him. At the end of it stood two familiar shapes, the swords he had pulled from Liara's chest. They floated in the air, one bright blue, one deep red. The blades are waiting, said the voice. Their power cannot live in one being alone. They must be shared. Eli took a slow step forward. Shared with who? Before he could finish, the air rippled. The light trembled. A shadow rose from the edge of the glowing world. Kyle. His armor burned with red fire, his eyes fierce. You should not be here, human, Kale's voice thundered. The core answers to me. Eli clenched his fists. You killed her world. You don't deserve it. Kale laughed, a sound like metal grinding. I gave her world strength. Emotion made it weak. You will see soon enough. He raised his blade and the light twisted into darkness. The peaceful glow turned red. The ground cracked beneath Eli's feet. Eli grabbed the blue sword as it spun toward him. It felt warm, alive, and strangely familiar. Energy surged through his veins, filling him with strength. The red sword shot into Kyle's hand, feeding his power. Blue and red light clashed, shaking the air itself. Kyle moved fast, each strike echoing like thunder. Eli blocked, the sword humming as if it were guiding his hands. Sparks flew. The ground split. "You fight like a child," Kyle growled. Eli gritted his teeth. "Maybe, but at least I fight for someone other than myself." Kyle lunged again. Eli barely dodged, the blade slicing across his arm. Pain burned through him, but he didn't fall. He swung back with all his strength. The blue sword glowed brighter, shining like a star. Light burst from it, pushing Kale backward. "You think courage can win against eternity?" Kale shouted. Eli's voice was steady. "Courage is the only thing that ever has." The core around them began to shake violently. Streams of light flowed toward Eli, wrapping around him like wings. He felt Liara's presence, her voice whispering through the light. "Eli, you must finish it." Her words filled him with resolve. He dashed forward, blocking Kyle's strike, then twisted the blue sword upward. The two blades locked. For a moment, everything froze. Red against blue, hate against hope. Then Eli did something unexpected. Instead of pushing harder, he let go of anger. He remembered Liara's smile, her kindness, her belief in compassion. He focused on that. The sword responded. Its light changed from blue to pure white. The glow swallowed both of them. Kale screamed, his armor cracking as the red light shattered. "No, I am eternal," he roared. Eli's voice echoed through the light. "Nothing eternal deserves to last if it forgets what it means to live." The core exploded in a wave of energy. When the light faded, Kyle was gone. Only ashes of red light floated away into the air. Eli fell to his knees, exhausted. The white sword dissolved slowly, melting into his hands like warm water. Then the world began to rebuild itself. The broken walls of the core reformed, glowing silver and calm. The red light that had corrupted it disappeared. Eli stood, breathing heavily. "It's over." A soft voice answered, "Yes." He turned and saw Liara. She looked radiant, her eyes full of tears and light. "I felt your heart inside the core," she said. "You faced him and you chose mercy over hate. That is why the heart answered you." Eli smiled weakly. "So your planet's safe now?" "Not yet," she said. "The core is stable, but its energy needs a living bridge. You have become that bridge." Eli blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said softly, "you are part of Elyndra now." Before he could reply, his hands began to glow faintly. The same light flowed through his veins, connecting to the core. He felt warmth spreading through him. Not pain, but peace. Liara stepped closer and placed her hand over his heart. "You gave me life. Now I give you eternity. Our eternity." The chamber filled with gentle light. Outside, for the first time in many years, Elyndra's sky turned blue again. The silence that followed was peaceful. No thunder, no fire, only the sound of wind whispering through the ancient halls. Eli opened his eyes slowly. The light around him was gentle now, flowing like water over the broken floor. He felt warmth deep in his chest, where the core's glow pulsed softly with every beat of his heart. Liara stood nearby, her armor gleaming with silver light. Her long white hair floated in the soft breeze and her eyes shone with calm pride. "It's done," Eli said quietly. "Kale's gone. The core is safe," she nodded slowly. "Because of you." Eli looked around. The walls that had once been cracked now shimmered with new crystal. The machines were silent. The red glow of corruption had faded into blue and gold. Above them, through the cracks in the ceiling, sunlight began to pour in. Elyndra was alive again. Liara stepped closer, her expression gentle but sad. "The balance has been restored, but there is a cost. The core links to your soul now. Without you, its light will fade again." Eli frowned. "You mean, if I leave, your world dies?" She nodded once. "Your heart is the bridge between human courage and Elyndran life. You are now part of the heart itself." Eli looked down at his glowing hands. The light inside him pulsed like a heartbeat. He could feel the planet, its warmth, its movement, even the faint laughter of those still alive. "It was beautiful, but heavy. So I stay," he said simply. Liara looked at him with surprise. You would give up your world for mine? He smiled faintly. You gave up your life once for your people. Seems fair I'd do the same. She shook her head softly. Humans, always willing to burn for a single spark of hope. He laughed weakly. Yeah, guess that's what we do best. For a long moment they stood in silence. The air was peaceful now, full of gentle light. Liara moved closer and placed her hand on his cheek. Eli Cross, you came from a far world with no promise of reward. You faced fear, pain, and death, not for power, but for kindness. Elyndra will remember your name for all time. Eli's voice softened. You don't need to remember my name, just remember what it means to care. Liara smiled, though her eyes shone with tears. You speak like one of the ancients, he chuckled. I'm just a guy who followed a voice. The core behind them pulsed brighter, like a sunrise being born again. Outside, the dead forests began to glow. Crystals bloomed like flowers. Rivers of light flowed through the valleys. The broken towers of Elyndra rose slowly, their shapes reforming in gold and silver. The world was healing, but the more it healed, the weaker Eli felt. His knees trembled. His light was leaving his body, flowing into the ground, the air, the sky. Liara caught him before he fell. Eli, he smiled faintly. It's okay. I can feel them. Your people. They're waking up, her voice broke. There must be another way. I can't lose you. He looked at her with tired eyes. You're not losing me. I'll always be here. Every breath your world takes, I'll be part of it. Liara's tears shimmered like diamonds. You gave us life again. You gave me life again. Eli smiled softly. Then promise me you'll live it well. She nodded, holding his hand tight. I promise. The core glowed brighter and brighter until everything was white. When the light faded, Eli was gone. Only a faint shimmer of energy floated where he had stood, drifting gently into the heart of Elyndra. Liara looked up, her face calm but full of sorrow. Goodbye, brave human, she whispered. May your courage light the stars. Years passed, Elyndra lived again, its cities rebuilt, its people reborn. The story of the human who came from the stars became legend. They built a monument in the great capital, a statue of light holding two blades, one of blue, one of silver. The people called him the Heart-Bearer. Queen Liara ruled wisely, her heart strong, her eyes always searching the sky. Sometimes when the wind blew through the crystal forests, she could hear a faint voice whisper her name. And far away across galaxies, a small planet called Earth picked up a strange signal one night, soft and steady like a heartbeat. No one could decode it, but it sounded like peace. Epilogue. In the quiet between stars where light and darkness meet, a voice echoed through the void. Courage is not about never fearing. It's about choosing to stand even when you do. And so the story of Elyndra ended not in sorrow, but in hope. Proof that even one human's courage can change an entire world.